Live television has always carried an unpredictable edge, but sometimes things spiral far beyond awkward silences or tense glances. When emotions boil over and egos clash, what starts as a routine interview can explode into chaos for millions to witness in real time. These aren't just dramatic moments. They're raw, unscripted showdowns that leave audiences stunned and headlines buzzing for days. Whether it's political rivals trading verbal blows, celebrities losing their cool, or TV hosts completely losing control of the room, some interviews go completely off the rails, and there's no rewind button when it's live. In today's video, we're diving into the most unforgettable interviews that didn't just go wrong. They ignited into full-blown arguments, shouting matches, and even physical altercations right in front of the cameras. From jaw-dropping meltdowns to heated walk-offs, these are the wildest moments ever caught live on air. Bert Reynolds and Mark Summers. In one of the most unexpected and chaotic live television moments of the 90s, legendary actor Bert Reynolds found himself in a bizarre clash with children's TV host Mark Summers during a 1994 appearance on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. At the time, Reynolds was going through a high-profile and bitter divorce from actress Loni Anderson, a topic that host Jay Leno wasted no time poking fun at. The jokes didn't land well. Reynolds was visibly irritated, and the atmosphere turned icy fast. Then came Mark Summers, best known as the host of Double Dare. What was supposed to be a light-hearted guest interaction turned uncomfortable when Summers made what seemed to be a smug remark about his own happy marriage, an obvious contrast to Reynolds' very public relationship troubles. That offhand comment triggered something. Without warning, Reynolds poured the contents of his mug onto Summers' lap. Summers tried to play along and retaliate, but Reynolds smacked his hand away, ramping up the tension. The audience, unsure whether it was a gag or a real altercation, laughed nervously. Things came to a surreal climax when both men grabbed cream pies and launched into an all-out pie fight, creating one of the most awkwardly entertaining messes in live TV history. Whether it was a publicity stunt or a real moment of personal frustration spilling over, this chaotic exchange has gone down as one of the strangest and most unexpected live TV fights ever aired. Alexander Lebedev and Sergey Palansky. Live TV doesn't get more intense than this. In 2011, a Russian talk show meant to dissect the nation's economic woes turned into a shocking spectacle of violence when two billionaire heavyweights, former KGB agent Alexander Lebedev and flashy real estate mogul Sergey Palansky, clashed in front of the cameras. The stage was set for a tense discussion, but what unfolded stunned viewers around the world. The conversation began civilly enough, but it wasn't long before egos clashed and tempers flared. Palansky, known for his flamboyant attitude and towering personality, made remarks that seemed to needle Lebedev. The tension built with every exchange, and the atmosphere turned electric with aggression. Then, in a moment no one saw coming, Lebedev, cool and collected 1 second, lunged forward and punched Palansky in the face, knocking him right off his chair and onto the studio floor. The former spy later claimed he acted in self-defense, saying Palansky's body language felt threatening. But the footage told a different story, one that left audiences stunned and Palansky visibly shaken. The incident didn't just end with a viral video clip. It had serious consequences. Lebedev was later charged with politically motivated hooliganism, a criminal offense that carried a potential 5-year prison sentence. This wasn't just an argument. It was an all-out assault broadcast live across Russia, and the fallout sent shockwaves through the country's elite. What was supposed to be a debate on economics turned into a brutal reminder that power, pride, and live cameras can be a dangerous combination. This unforgettable moment remains one of the most jaw-dropping televised altercations ever witnessed. Shaker AlJharri and Sami Cryus. What started as a fiery political discussion turned into full-blown chaos in July 2014, when two Jordanian pundits clashed violently on the Yosat satellite television network. On one side was Shaker AlJharri, a hard-edged journalist known for his provocative takes. On the other, Sami Cryus, a seasoned lawyer and political activist. The topics? Nothing less than the Syrian civil war and the crisis in Gaza, two of the most emotionally charged and divisive issues in the Middle East at the time. Tensions rose rapidly as Cryus voiced his opinions, clearly agitating AlJharri. Words became weapons, and before long, the verbal sparring escalated into physical aggression. In a shocking move, AlJharri picked up a bottle of water and flung it directly at Cryus. The host attempted to de-escalate the situation, but it was already spiraling. With rage taking over, AlJharri stormed across the studio, seized a chair, and launched himself at Cryus in full view of the live audience. The stunned host tried to intervene, but it took a quick-acting studio staff member to physically step in and stop the confrontation from turning into a full-scale brawl. The broadcast cut abruptly, but the damage, both literal and reputational, had already been done. The scene was raw, unnerving, and unforgettable. It laid bare the deep political and ideological fractures gripping the region and showed how live television, when mixed with passion and provocation, can turn into an unpredictable battleground. For viewers, it was a jarring reminder that debates over war and justice don't always stay confined to words. Sometimes they erupt with devastating force. This shocking encounter stands as one of the most explosive live TV fights the Arab media world has ever witnessed. Sharpton and Roy Inis. In the heated atmosphere of 1980s New York, few political rivalries were as combustible as the one between Reverend Sharpton and Roy Inis. Both men were influential figures in the civil rights movement, but their ideologies couldn't have been further apart. Sharpton, a firebrand Democrat known for his outspoken activism, often clashed with Inis, a staunch conservative and national chairman of the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE. Their mutual disdain reached a boiling point in 1988 during a notorious episode of the Morton Downey Jr. Show, a talk show already infamous for its confrontational tone. From the moment the two men appeared on stage together, sparks began to fly. Sharpton launched into a pointed critique of Inis's political stances, calling out what he saw as betrayal within the civil rights movement. Inis, not one to back down, began to respond, but Sharpton kept interrupting, fanning the flames of their already tense dynamic. What happened next stunned the audience. As the back and forth escalated, Inis suddenly snapped and physically shoved Sharpton, sending him sprawling onto the stage floor. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Chaos unfolded in seconds. Host Morton Downey Jr., usually the loudest voice in the room, was forced into the rare position of mediator, rushing in to break up the fight before it spiraled completely out of control. The explosive altercation made headlines and became one of the most infamous moments in daytime television history. More than just a brawl, it was a visceral demonstration of how deep ideological divides, especially between two powerful voices in the same movement, can erupt with staggering intensity when aired in public. This was more than just a disagreement. It was a televised collision of egos, politics, and unresolved tensions, and it left a lasting mark on both their legacies. Shaker AlJharri and Mohammed Al-Jayusi. In one of the most chaotic moments ever broadcast on Jordanian television, two journalists transformed a fiery political discussion into an all-out brawl, leaving the studio in pieces. In May 2014, on the show Between Opposing Opinions, veteran journalist Shaker AlJharri squared off against fellow journalist Mohammed al-Jayusi. The topic? The Syrian crisis, already a divisive and emotionally charged subject in the Arab world. From the beginning, the energy in the room was volatile. Tensions exploded when al-Jayusi fired off a personal attack, calling AlJharri a deviant and accusing him of siding with Syrian revolutionaries. The insult hit a nerve. Within seconds, the verbal battle turned physical. Both men sprang from their chairs and began hurling heated insults, gesturing wildly as their rage took control. Then came the moment that shocked viewers. In a burst of fury, they shoved the studio table back and forth like a pair of sumo wrestlers locked in a standoff. The table creaked under the pressure before finally snapping apart, sending microphones, papers, and water bottles flying. For a brief moment, the studio descended into sheer pandemonium. Despite the host's desperate attempts to restore order, it took several members of the production crew to separate the feuding journalists. By the time the dust settled, the once orderly set looked like a war zone, with a shattered table, broken equipment, and shaken staff scrambling to regain control. This wasn't just a disagreement. It was a visual metaphor for the deep and dangerous fault lines within Arab political discourse. The clash between AlJharri and al-Jayusi remains one of the most infamous televised meltdowns in Middle Eastern broadcasting history. What began as a debate ended in destruction, turning a talk show into a battlefield. Vepkia Gurganishvili and Polad Kalikov. Political debates are expected to get fiery, but what unfolded on Georgian television in 2016 was more akin to a street fight than a civil exchange of ideas. In the heated run-up to Georgia's parliamentary elections, a live televised debate on the Kvemo-Kartli network brought together two fierce opponents, Vepkia Gurganishvili of the Democratic Movement and Polad Kalikov from the industrial political bloc. What began as a standard debate quickly spiraled into chaos that no one saw coming. As the discussion intensified, both candidates became visibly agitated. Insults flew back and forth, with each man trying to undermine the other's credibility. But things took a dramatic turn when Gurganishvili allegedly crossed a line by calling Kalikov scum. That single word ignited a firestorm. What followed was a moment of raw, unscripted fury. Both men simultaneously threw their pens at each other, a symbolic gesture of abandoning diplomacy, and lunged forward with clenched fists. The political rhetoric gave way to physical aggression as they engaged in a spontaneous and chaotic fistfight right in front of the cameras. Shocked viewers watched as the live debate devolved into a physical brawl, with microphones crashing and chairs clattering. The production staff rushed onto the set, desperately trying to break up the melee before it escalated any further. After a tense struggle, the candidates were finally separated, and the broadcast was abruptly cut short. The incident quickly became a national talking point and a viral moment on social media. It served as a stark reminder of how high political tensions can boil over into violence when personal insults override professional conduct. The Gurganishvili-Kalikov clash wasn't just a debate gone wrong. It was a televised implosion of political civility that Georgia wouldn't soon forget. Rome and Jim Everett. Few televised sports interviews have left a mark, quite like the explosive encounter between Rome and former NFL quarterback Jim Everett in 1994. It all went down on ESPN2's Talk, a show hosted by Rome, known for his brash attitude and no-holds-barred approach to interviewing. But on that particular day, Rome pushed his luck too far and paid the price on live television. For weeks leading up to the interview, Rome had taunted Everett by calling him Chris Evert, comparing the tough 6'5" quarterback to the female tennis legend. It was a jab at Everett's perceived lack of toughness following a rough game in 1989. But Everett, never one to let a slight go unchallenged, was well aware of Rome's antics. As soon as Everett sat down for the live segment, the air was thick with tension. Everett kept his composure at first, calmly warning Rome not to repeat the nickname. But Rome, with trademark arrogance, did exactly that, calling him Cryus right to his face. That was the final straw. In an instant, Everett lunged forward, flipping the interview table like it weighed nothing. He charged at Rome, sending the host toppling backward onto the studio floor. The cameras caught every second of the stunning altercation, and the clip quickly went viral in an era before social media even existed. Though no punches were thrown, the moment became iconic, etched into sports media history as a prime example of when on-air provocation goes dangerously wrong. Rome later admitted he was in the wrong and has attempted to make amends with Everett over the years. However, Everett has reportedly declined every offer for reconciliation. This wasn't just an interview gone off script. It was a live TV meltdown fueled by ego, disrespect, and a well-placed nickname: Andy Kaufman and Jhari Lawler. In the world of entertainment, few moments have blurred the line between reality and performance as masterfully as the explosive clash between comedian Andy Kaufman and pro wrestler Jhari Lawler on Late Night with David Letterman in 1982. What began as a strange celebrity feud soon became one of the most talked-about on-air confrontations in television history. Andy Kaufman had made a name for himself with his surreal, unpredictable brand of comedy. Never content to follow the rules, he stepped into the world of professional wrestling, but with a twist. Kaufman started wrestling women in bizarre intergender matches, taunting audiences and presenting himself as the self-proclaimed intergender wrestling champion. Naturally, this gimmick enraged many, including Memphis wrestling icon Jhari Lawler. Their feud reached a boiling point after Lawler seemingly injured Kaufman during a match, leaving the comic in a neck brace. To clear the air, or so viewers thought, the two men appeared on Late Night with David Letterman. Their feud reached a boiling point after Lawler seemingly injured Kaufman during a match, leaving the comic in a neck brace. To clear the air, or so viewers thought, the two men appeared on Late Night with David Letterman. But instead of reconciliation, the interview descended into chaos. Kaufman, still in his brace, accused Lawler of assault and threatened a lawsuit live on air. Without warning, Lawler stood up and delivered a thunderous open-handed slap across Kaufman's face, knocking him out of his chair. The audience gasped, and the show instantly spiraled out of control. Kaufman exploded in rage, unleashing a flurry of expletives and storming off the stage after hurling a cup of coffee at Lawler. The clip became an instant media sensation. People couldn't decide. Was it real or just another Kaufman stunt? Years later, the truth surfaced. The entire incident had been staged. Kaufman and Lawler had planned the altercation down to the last insult. They weren't bitter enemies at all. They were collaborators in one of the greatest performance pranks in television history: the Haraldo Brawl. On November 3, 1988, daytime television crossed into unprecedented territory when a taping of the Geraldo Rivera show exploded into an all-out brawl. The episode was intended to spark a raw and intense debate, featuring a highly controversial panel made up of white supremacists, black civil rights activists, and Jewish community leaders. But things quickly spiraled out of control in front of a stunned live audience. Tensions were already sky-high when white supremacist John Metzger, the son of infamous KKK leader Tom Metzger, hurled a racial slur at Roy Inis, the chairman of the Congress of Racial Equality. Inis, a known firebrand with a history of physical confrontations on television, did not hesitate. He rose from his chair, walked straight over to Metzger, and grabbed him violently by the neck. That single act lit the fuse. In seconds, the stage turned into a battlefield. Other guests jumped in. Audience members rushed the set. Chairs flew. Punches were thrown. People screamed. And in the chaos, a metal chair smashed directly into host Haraldo Rivera's face, breaking his nose and drawing blood. It was one of the most surreal moments in talk show history, with live violence erupting on a program known for walking the line between serious journalism and sensationalism. Despite the visible injury and blood pouring from his nose, Rivera refused to seek medical attention during the broadcast. He insisted on finishing the taping, standing with gauze over his face, determined to push through the mayhem. The episode made headlines around the world. Some viewers condemned the show for giving extremists a platform. Others praised it for showing the raw, ugly truth about racial hatred in America. But no one could deny it. This wasn't just a talk show segment. It was one of the most violent and shocking moments in live television history. And there you have it. Some of the most explosive interviews ever aired on live television. Which moment shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe for more jaw-dropping content every week.